so the next match was for the WWE Women's World Championship. Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley, with Dominic Mysterio in a shark cage hanging above the ring. All right, so the entrances were pretty over the top with Dominic Mysterio and this really nice fancy car with Liv Morgan coming out to some really cool sounding rap music and everything. And the fans were booing, of course. And they get Dominic Mysterio in the shark cage, and he's completely scared and there was even a funny comment here from Corey Graves during the match where he says, "I hope for Rhea Ripley's sake she finds," or I'm paraphrasing here, but he says, "I hope for Rhea Ripley's sake she one day finds a new lover, like a man with big muscles and maybe perhaps Australian too." Well, if anyone knows about Rhea Ripley, she is married to Buddy Matthews, who is indeed a muscular man from Australia. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, some cool stuff in this match, like Liv Morgan. She did like a code breaker by jumping off the top of the rope and landing right there in front of Rhea Ripley. There's even a part where Rhea Ripley evades the Oblivion by landing on her feet while also selling the damage that's been done to her knee. So that was cool, good. I really do like the psychology of how Liv Morgan wrestled. She definitely wrestled as like the smaller opponent who needs to take advantage of anything and everything she can to work on whatever body parts or body limb and everything she can work on to keep Rhea at bay. So I really like the psychology in the match and everything. And then from there, let's see what we had. There's a part at one point where Dominic basically, actually I'm lost my notes for a second. Rhea Ripley, she delivers a razor's edge to Liv Morgan, and Dominic Mysterio manages to open the door to the shark cage, but of course it's way too high for him to jump out. And at one point, and you could hear the audience gasp like and I remember when I watched, I was like, oh, because Dominic Mysterio, he falls out of the cage and the way his body was like, oh snap. I'm like, was that a botch? Well, not a botch, but I was wondering for like, oh snap, was it a mistake or whatever? I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, oh. And then Dominic stops because he's saved by his foot hanging from a harness wrapped around his ankle. But like I said, you could hear the audience gasp. So that was really well done on WWE's part. Another thing that was interesting, I think this is why, if you notice, Dominic Mysterio was never standing up in the cage. He was sitting down, and I guess this was allow him enough time to put the harness on his foot. But hey, mad respect to Dominic Mysterio, because he flew out of there head first. That's got to be like a 15-20 foot drop straight to his head onto concrete if that thing would have not been strong enough to hold him back. So definitely glad WWE was doing the safe measures and stuff. But yeah, that was a pretty dangerous stunt to do. But that looks like they did it as safely as they could. And then from there, Rhea Ripley, she walks over and says to the referee and says, "I've got some unfinished business." And the referee says, "Okay, go ahead and do your thing." And this is because they have the they had that first person perspective camera on the ear where you could hear what was it called? The audio from the microphone that was connected to the camera. So that was pretty cool. And Corey was saying that the referee's like been caught in like 4K and everything, not doing his job right. And so Rhea, she ends up picking up a Kindle stick and just starts welling all over Dominic Mysterio with this like he's a piñata. And she even says happy birthday to me, which because it's her birthday is gonna be October 11th. But in the middle of all this, Raquel Rodriguez makes her return and just starts beating up Rhea Ripley and throws her back into the ring and hits the Tahana bomb, and this of course means the match is thrown out, disqualification. Rhea wins, but Liv Morgan ends up retaining, and that is it from there. And it looks like Raquel Rodriguez, she picks up Liv Morgan, and she looked like she's about to embrace Liv and Liv and Dominic, and she's at one point she's all like, this is the real couple and everything. And from there it looks like she's joining the Judgment Day. So we got two female members now in the Judgment Day. So I thought this ending was great, and the story makes a lot of sense. First of all, it's great to see Raquel back. It's great to see her skin being very smooth, because for those that don't know, the reason why Raquel was gone for so long at the end of last year, came back a little bit early this year, and then had to be gone for majority of the rest of this year, it was because she had developed some sort of weird skin condition that was just breaking her skin out, and it took a while to find to figure out what was going on. But hey, like I said, it's great to see her back healthy. Her skin is smooth and everything, and this makes a lot of good sense from the story if you look at all the history. So Raquel and Rio in NXT, they were best friends, and eventually, Raquel turned heel and became a jerk to Rhea Ripley, and Rhea eventually went to the main roster. But when both of them became world champions, Rhea Raw champion on WWE's main roster, and Raquel being the champion on NXT. And I think they were in the ring with Bianca Belair. They all reconciled, and they were good friends again. And eventually, Raquel comes up onto the main roster, but now Rhea turns heel. Rhea's the one being a jerk to Raquel, and I think there was a part where she had turned on Raquel at one point and put her out, which led to their feud last year. Before, or shortly after, that's when Raquel had to take her big hiatus from WWE because of her skin condition, I believe. But also, in that time frame, they had Liv Morgan, who was also going back and forth as tag champions. At one point, she was tag champions or tag partners with Rhea and then Raquel, and I think, she did become the tag champions with Liv. So when you look at how all three of them are together, the thing is, when we pick up where we are now, Rhea and Raquel didn't end on good terms, but Liv Morgan and Raquel were still on good terms. So it makes sense that Raquel would pledge her loyalty to Liv Morgan versus Rhea. So I'm liking where the story going. It's going to make sense. People are going to boo, but I think once again, it's one of those stories where I'm pretty sure when you look at the story, Raquel absolutely is justified for being against Rhea Ripley. So I'm enjoying where the story is going. I thought they were going to have a Hell in a Cell match here, but I guess they didn't for Liv and Rhea, and that's how I knew, okay, Liv is probably winning. I actually thought, though, just moments before the match started, that Rhea was going to win, because once I found out they're doing this whole champion versus champion, I'm like, well, they're not going to do Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax. That's heel versus heel, and they're trying to make this big thing as a big prestigious thing. They're probably going to want to do Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax too. Could that be the bigger match? But hey, I was wrong, and hey, I got my prediction came right here, so that's what ended up happening there. So overall, I'm liking where the story's going, because I don't know what else you can do with Rhea for the meantime while she's battling Liv. But sooner or later, I expect Rhea to get that championship back, and I'm ready to see a Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley match down the road.